When you were locked up, I couldn't imagine going through that. I mean, outside of God, will give you strength, will give you power.
Yeah. Well, so, there may be others in here that may not know that in 2016, the federal government came and rounded up my entire family and threw us in federal prison. And they charged us with charges in Oregon, and then they also charged us with charges in Nevada. And total, those charges were minimum sentencing of 106 years. So they were trying to take our life away. We had not done even close to what they were accusing us of. So we were innocent men in there. We were, locked away, and we were in there for 2 years. And about half of that time I was in there, and a few others were in solitary confinement. So I spent a ton of time, months and months and months on end in a little concrete box. Never did see the light of day. I wouldn't talk to somebody for several days, and then a guard might come up and say something, and you go to talk to him, and your voice doesn't even work because you haven't talked. You had to work through that. I guess the question is how did we get through that? And I know you said without God, or somehow that way, but it was simply that, relying on Him for strength. And let me explain what I mean by that. In those situations, I've got a little family. My youngest right here that you saw, he was 1 year old. When I come home on his 3-year-old birthday. And missing that time, I had a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old and all the way up. And not only that, seeing and knowing that they were struggling just to pay the bills and stay in our home and all of those things, and they were hurting inside, right? And I'm locked in a box. And I can't do anything about it. For two years, I was never allowed once to have any physical contact with my family. Not one time. And so being in that circumstance is extremely, extremely difficult. But what got us through it, and the point I want to say is, of course, just having enough faith to be able to not lose faith in God and reaching out to Him. But then for Him to reach back and began to help and just give us little glimpses of what was going to happen. Little glimpses that you will be free sometime. Little glimpses of that I'm going to make this right. And even understanding how that was going to happen to a certain extent. And once that began to happen, that was enough to know sometime I am going to be able to get out. Sometime I'm going to be restored back to my family. Sometime this is going to be made right. And knowing that helped me to not fall into despair. And it got to the point where I even understood to a certain level, and I say understood because that's probably the best way I can explain it, what the Lord was going to do. And I actually even felt sorry for the prosecutors. And they spent $100 million trying to prosecute my family in 2 different trials. We were acquitted on all charges in Oregon. We go down there and fight another case in Nevada, went through literally hell, and get there and start to get the truth in front of the jury, and they could see that we were going to do it again. The same thing was going to happen in Oregon was going to happen in Nevada, and they decided that it was better to just drop the case, dismiss it with prejudice, than to look terrible once again. And so it was just absolute miracle that we saw coming from a long, long time. And we beat the federal government, my little family, in court with the advantage of the Lord multiple times. Went home to our families, went back to work and back to living.
Did you get restitution?
No, many people say, well, no, you should sue the federal government and all of that. I don't believe that there's a whole lot of justice going on in the federal courts. I don't want to spend my time in there. The Lord will work it all out, and I hope that anybody who was involved that did that to my family, repents of that. Whatever happens with them, that's fine. I'm going to go live my life and be with my family. I'm going to, unite with my neighbors and defend them. And that's where I stand. So no, there was no restitution.